All right, guys, there's way more black and red up here now, so we can all be calm and, that orange just makes me anxious. It didn't a few weeks ago. Guys, I'm Jeremy. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, and I struggle with codependency. What? Hey, y'all remember this guy, right? That's Jeremy, King of Denial, right there, right? That was in February. Can y'all believe it's already October? Isn't that crazy to me? And y'all, we've done a lot of hard work already this year, haven't we? This was lesson 1. This was denial, okay? Last week of January, first week of February. From there till May, we worked through the first 3 principles, 1, 2, and 3. And then come May, we started on principle 4, right? And since May up until now, we have worked through principles 4, 5, and 6. And up until this time, we have worked through steps 1 through 9. So now we have arrived, right? We have arrived at principle 7. Now, I say arrived intentionally. Okay? A lot of times when we get here is when we think that we've done enough. We have worked through, we have already admitted we weren't God. We have admitted that we were powerless to control the things in our lives. We have given it all to Him, right? We've made a list of all the things that we have done. We have confessed them. We have asked God to remove them. And then we have offered amends and forgiveness. That is a lot of work, right? I mean, for real. And now is when we feel like we can kind of let off the gas, right? All the hard work feels like it's over with. We're through 6 out of 8 of the principles, and now we can actually exhale. Everybody do that with me. Let's all inhale at one time. 1, 2, 3. Principles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Principle 7. Right? Isn't that how it feels? Right? But that's not where it ends. The coast isn't quite clear yet, y'all. All right? Matter of fact, when we finish up principle 6, we end up here at this lesson, which is called Crossroads. Now, has anyone ever been at a crossroads in their life? Now, me and Allie, we find ourselves at crossroads every time dinner comes around, where neither one of us can make a decision on what we're going to eat tonight, but that is not quite the definition of what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is the kind of crossroads that we find when we get to principle 6. We've done all of this work, and we're like, do I want to step on the gas and continue moving forward in my recovery? Or am I good? Can I step off the train here, okay, and white knuckle it from here on out? Am I celebrate recovered at this point? Right, no, we're not. Now is the time to ask ourselves, am I good? Am I still thirsty? Am I ready to take my recovery to the next level, or am I ready to get off this train? Principle 7, reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and His will for my life and gain the power to follow His will. And that goes along with step 10. We continue to take a personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. 1 Corinthians 10:12. I mentioned how time has flown since that King Jeremy pick, right? But when we walk through these doors for the first time don't feel like it's flying at all, does it? Matter of fact, when we're stuck in our addictions and we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, time is basically standing still, because we are going through the motions each and every day, day in and day out, stuck in the same cycle of insanity, and the days just feel like one. And it doesn't feel that same way in a step study either, does it? How many of you in here has done a step study? Raise your hand. How many are doing a step study right now? Even better yet, how many of you are in a step study right now and just finished Principle 6? Nobody? One or two? Okay. Crossroads is the beginning of Principle 7, and it also represents the start of the 4th participant's guide in a step study. We have 4 books in our step studies, all right? 1, 2, and 3, and then we finally get to 4, okay? And we exhale. The work is the hard work is over. It's like, man, we have been climbing this hill for so long. We start off fast, right? Y'all know once the Lord convinces us to walk through those doors or get into a step study, we're gung-ho for recovery, right? We are eager. We've found some hope. There is life after the addictions. There is life after our character defects. And we run through principles 1, 2, and 3, right? Run through them. We admit that we are powerless and we are tired of playing God. We believe God is alive and in us and has the power to help me recover, and I consciously choose to commit my life to Him. Seems like we are fast out of the gate. How many of y'all have ever rode the Scream Machine at Six Flags? Right? Okay, so when you finally get buckled, they put that little bitty lap bar across you, wooden roller coaster, a little tiny lap bar to keep you in, and you finally take off, heading towards that first hill, right? It's pretty jolty. I mean, you get a jolt and you're gone, right? And then that's like principles 1, 2, and 3, right? Gung-ho, get there, and then all of a sudden we get to that hill. That step 4 hill, maybe? Does anybody relate? Yeah. When you start up that big hill of the Scream Machine and you look ahead of you and it seems like forever to get to the top, all right? That's like filling out those inventory sheets, right? You know, we fill that first one out because we got to turn it in next week. You know, we got to share it next week with our group. But then the procrastination starts, you know, and all of a sudden you find yourself sometimes last minute, because step 5's coming, filling out inventory sheets, having to stop what you're doing and doing it last minute. And I'm guilty as charged. Because when we dig up those old past, those old people, places, and things, those old character defects and things like that, it's hard. But we have to get it behind us, don't we? We have to get it behind us. And once we finally do, okay, and we're still going up that hill, okay, we got to confess our junk to others. We have to find to God and to someone who I trust. We have to admit it to ourselves first, and we become ready to submit to all the changes that God has in our lives, all right? That gets us through Principle 5. And then we get to Principle 6. We're almost to the top of the hill, okay? And we decide to make amends. We decide to offer forgiveness. And once that is done, the train stops. Has anybody ever been stuck on the top hill of Six Flags on that train while you wait on that other one to catch up? Y'all know what I'm talking about? It's a moment in your life where you're contemplating your life. Well, did I make the right choice here to get on this roller coaster? But we have a choice to make at this point. We have a choice to make whether or not we are going to get off of this train, because if you look closely to see, there is steps coming back down those tracks, right? When I was in my first 2 step studies, I've done 3. In my first 2 step studies, I decided to get off that train and come down those tracks. When I got done with book 3, I was done. I'm just being transparent here. I was completely finished with my step study. I could see the end in sight, right? We got 3 or 4 more weeks. Give me my coin. Where's my steak? Johnny Stone cooks the greatest steaks that you've ever tasted. But I was looking forward to the end. And it didn't hit me until I got to my 3rd step study. That's when I finally understood why we had 2 more principles and 3 more steps. These are the ones that get us through the rest of the ride. These are the ones that after we go up that first big hill, okay, and we've built up all these tools and the momentum, these are the ones that get us through and back to the train station. The hills and valleys aren't over, y'all. They're not. Just because we found Jesus in recovery does not mean that things are going to get easier. Matter of fact, they're going to get a lot harder in a lot of ways, because when we were in our addictions and our character defects, the enemy didn't mess with us. We were doing exactly what he wanted us to do. Am I right? Yeah. I mean, when you're doing the things that the enemy wants you to do, he's going to leave you alone. But not now. Not now. Not by the time we've already worked ourselves through Principle 6. He's involved now, and he's coming for us. We have done things that he doesn't like. We have put our vices away. We've rekindled relationships, broken relationships, right? We're going to church. We're learning who Jesus is. We're talking to Jesus now. These are things that the enemy doesn't like. And this is why Principles 7 and 8 and steps 10 through 12 are so important. These are our how to do life daily steps. Tonight we're going to focus on step 10. And our acrostic for tonight is the word 10. And it is made up of 3 parts. Number 1, the what. Number 2, the why. And number 3, and then what. Okay? So let's take some time to look at these steps. The T answers the what. What is it that we need to do to maintain our momentum, to keep our focus on Jesus, and to continue to work to become more like him? We got to take time to do a daily inventory. Take time to do a daily inventory. If we want to strive to be more like Jesus, we have to take time to spend with him for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer. This gives us time to go over the good and bad things that happen throughout our day. I choose my quiet time in the morning, okay, because my mind's fresh from just waking up. Well, I mean, I say it is, but once I get some coffee, it's fresher. You know, I am actually more faithful to the Lord first thing in the morning, because I got to get all this done before I go to bed list hasn't been made yet, right? And who better and who is more do you take more priority with than the Lord first thing in the morning, right? Who deserves it more? And I've said this before, when I start my day in the Word and in prayer and writing out a gratitude list for the blessings that the Lord has bestowed on me and my family and all the people in my life that he's blessed me with, it's very hard to start your day off bad. It really is. You have to be intentional, right? You have to literally be intentional for your day to be bad if you do these things. Lamentations 3:40 tells us, "Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord." Daily. We return to the Lord daily. That's how we do this. When I was in my addictions, the last thing I was concerned with was returning to the Lord or examining my ways. What was the point of that? I was perfect. Everybody else was the problem, not me. My sins weren't accounted for. I had no conscience of how I was living or who I was hurting. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't care. But now, I've worked through these steps. I've worked through these steps with Jesus. And I know now that continuing down this path that he wants me to take is going to take intentionality. It's going to take effort to live how he wants me to live. Plain and simple. It's not going to come natural. It takes me searching out and examining my ways daily. It takes me taking the time to ask myself some questions about my day. I usually do this separate from my mornings, okay? I do my personal inventory separate from my mornings because in my brain, mornings are a new beginning, right? Mornings are a new beginning. Mornings are filled with positivity, all right? If I'm going to have negative stuff that I need to deal with, I'd like to do that right before I go to bed so I can sleep on it, okay? And these are the questions that I ask myself. Number one, they're on the screen. What did I do good today? Always got to keep things balanced. What did I do good today? Start with the good. Where did I screw up? Number three, did I do or say anything that hurt anyone today? Do I owe amends? And last, what did I learn from my actions? Now, you can modify this list however you want to do it, but this is a good foundation to start with. It's literally making a mini inventory every day, right? To evaluate where I was selfish or acted out of fear, but it's also to talk about the wins that I had that day. All right, because it's just like a step 4 inventory, y'all. We have to keep it balanced. Because if we don't keep it balanced, we will end up spiraling out of control. We will put the journal, whatever you're writing it in, down, and we won't pick it back up. And before long, we're coming down those steps of that big hill, and we're back at step 1. So we got to keep it balanced. And if you're consciously choosing every day to live more like Jesus, you will have many positives, many more positives than you will negatives, right? Because y'all, we're at principle 7. It's October, right? We've been doing this for a minute now, and we have some good things to talk about. There's lots of good things that are going right in our lives at this point. So keep it balanced. All right, so now we got the what covered. Now I want to talk about the why we work step 10. And that's what the E is for. Evaluate the good and bad. We make these lists for a purpose, for this purpose right here. What did I do right today? What did I do wrong? And if you notice, the step says when I'm wrong, not if I'm wrong. All right? 1 John 1, 8 through 10 says, if we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. If we claim we have not sinned, we make him out to be a liar and his word is not in us. John Trapp, who was an English writer and theologian, said, and I love this quote, no man was ever kept out of God's kingdom for his confessed badness. Many are for their supposed goodness. Anybody been there? That's pride, right? And when we think that way, we're ultimately saying to God, hey, man, I really don't know why you sent your son to the cross. I don't sin. Right? I just make mistakes. I'm only human. No one's perfect. I wouldn't call that a sin. I would just call it a slip up. When we say something like that, we're really telling God, I got this, man. I don't need your help. Get out of my way. So many times the inner Jeremy wants to say, if I was wrong. I mean, I've only been wrong for a little more than 6 years now, remember? All right? Before recovery, I was perfect. So working this step takes some pride swallowing for me. You know what I mean? I have to take that finger that I'm pointing at everybody else and point it at myself and put it in my chest. Do I want to be right? Or do I want to be healthy? Do I want to justify my selfishness? Or do I want to move closer to Christ and serve my fellow brother and sister. John 3:21, Jesus tells us, whoever lives by the truth comes into the light. When I take that daily inventory and I examine the bad, the darkness, if you will, becomes brighter. I don't allow the enemy and the evil inside of me to keep the lights off. I work to figure out how I'm not going to let that happen again. And that's the choice we have. We can either act on the evaluation of ourselves, or we can plan on ignoring it. Okay? If we choose to ignore it, it won't be long before we are wondering what happened. One second I was fixing to go over that big hill on the screen machine. The next I'm walking back down the hill to step 1. All right? But if we choose to act on it, we are living out the past. We're living out the last part of step 10, and we choose to answer the then what question. And y'all, I'm going to fly through this, okay? We need to admit our wrongs promptly, immediately. Sometimes even before we close our eyes. Who are the ones that we wrong the easiest? Who are the ones that we're most likely to say something hurtful to? Our loved ones. You're exactly right. That's right. They are our easiest targets, and when hurt people are hurt, what do? Hurt others. Exactly. I don't know about y'all, but it's not if, but when I hurt Allie or Walker or Dallas or one of my girls, okay? I can't fathom the thought of going to bed at night with them mad at me or them upset with me or knowing that I hurt them. I need to make those amends immediately, all right? All right, now, do I call someone that I was rude to at 10 o'clock at night when I'm doing my personal list and wake them up to tell them that I'm sorry? No, all that's going to do is amplify my rudeness. And I don't do that, but they are top priority in the morning. You know, saying sorry on a daily basis is harder than saying sorry after you've done something 2 or 3 years ago, all right? Because 2 or 3 years ago, the people that you've hurt have time to heal, all right? It takes a lot more strength to say you're sorry immediately because it's still raw. And you don't know how that person's going to react. But again, y'all, just like we learned in Principle 6, we don't make amends and offer forgiveness for them. We do it for us and for our own recovery, okay? So remember that. Matthew 5:23 through 24, Jesus tells us, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. That means you have to own it promptly. That's how you keep your recovery moving forward. As I wrap up real quick, I want to challenge everyone. And I can already hear eyes rolling right now, to journal. I challenge you to journal, okay? And I'm serious. Keep up with the good things and the bad things. It continues to give us hope, okay? And we are able to see the healthy patterns in our lives, and they become habits. And we get, those are wins, all right? But it's also able to identify where the negative traits in our lives still are and the things that we still have to work on. Because it's all about patterns, right? Negative patterns or cycles, if you will, can easily turn into insanity if you allow it. But that's done by ignoring them. When you journal, we can't ignore them. We continue to take personal inventory in that journal, and we continue to work our lives towards looking more like Jesus. So, focus question for tonight. Are you stopping at Principle 6 and Step 9? Or are you going to continue forward? What are you going to do to maintain the momentum of your recovery? Thanks, guys.